we did get a resolution at Michigan with this whole back and forth with the Big Ten. By now, you know everything that happened up until this point, the allegations of sign stealing, Connor Stalions fired, the Big Ten stepping in hours before the Penn State game last week to suspend Jim Harbaugh for 3 games. And then, of course, Michigan filing an injunction hearing, which would not have been heard until this Friday as you are listening. Well, I bring it up because after all the dust settled, Michigan decided on Thursday, you know what? We're not going to fight this anymore. We are going to accept the 3-game suspension and move on. Going to go ahead and read you the direct quote from the University of Michigan as they explained it on Thursday, so there is no confusion. From the University of Michigan. This morning, the university, Coach Harbaugh, and the Big Ten resolved their pending litigation. The conference agreed to close its investigation, and the university and Coach Harbaugh agreed to accept the 3-game suspension. Coach Harbaugh, with the university support, decided to accept this sanction to return the focus to our student athletes and their performance on the field. The conference has confirmed that it is not aware of any information suggesting Coach Harbaugh's involvement in the allegations. The university continues to cooperate fully with the NCAA investigation. So there's a lot to peel back there. But ultimately, what you need to know is exactly what I just told you, exactly what Michigan just told you. The Big Ten last week suspended Jim Harbaugh for 3 games. Michigan has accepted the Big Ten suspension, knowing that an ongoing NCAA investigation will be going on. But the Big Ten, as far as they are concerned, has closed down this investigation. Now, on the one hand, I'll be honest, I am a little bit surprised that Michigan went this route simply because they have a potential national championship on the line here. And obviously, if you don't beat Ohio State, that largely goes up in smoke. And obviously, you want to be at full strength when you're facing Ohio State. And obviously, you will not be without Jim Harbaugh. But at the same time, I don't know that I am that surprised by this decision. Let me explain why, right? Because I was thinking about this. Actually, it was Thursday morning. I was thinking, man, it is really quiet at Michigan right now. If you think about the whole last month, it's been one day after another of story after story after story. Who is Connor Stalions? What is he about? What did he know? Did anybody else know? The NCAA is on campus. There was that report that the FBI was on campus. There was the report that Ryan Day's family was involved, which has obviously been regarded, and that simply is not the case at all, okay? Then you have the back and forth with the Big Ten. Are they going to suspend? Are they not going to suspend? Every single day it felt like there was a new story. And so to go from essentially Saturday afternoon after that win to Thursday morning and there's nothing going on, it just felt like it was really, really, really quiet. And so I was thinking about that. And when you read that statement again, it does kind of make sense why Michigan has decided, you know what, we're just going to back off of this. Because I think the part that they say that I do think is important here is this, is that Coach Harbaugh, with the university's support, decided to accept this sanction to return the focus to our student athletes and their performance on the field. That's ultimately why I think this was done. Because the longer this goes on in a public forum, the more that there's outside noise that is impacting your players' preparation, and your ability to focus on what's ahead on Saturday. You can agree with the decision by Michigan. You cannot agree with the decision by Michigan. But the one thing you don't have to worry about, the players at least know going into Saturday, okay, Sharon Moore's our head coach. He's the guy who's leading us out of that tunnel. He's the guy that's giving us the pre and post game pep talks. And we at least know now. So there's closure for the players. And I think that is important in this crazy world. And it is worth noting, like, it really sucks not having Harbaugh on game day. I still think the Big Ten kind of overstepped its bounds based on what we know. But at the same time, what I would also say about it is I think Michigan kind of gets like, okay, it sucks not having him here, but he's allowed to be at practice every single day outside of Saturday. That was part of the Big Ten's decision. Coach Harbaugh can still be part of game prep, can still be part of planning, can still be at practice. He can still hit the tackling sled if he wants to. Like, he could pretty much do everything except be on the sidelines on Saturday. So I think Michigan decided, you know what? We'll let the players focus on the games. We'll let the players focus at hand. It puts, by the way, the staff at ease. It's not every single day trying to figure out what is Saturday going to look like. And I think the other part too, which is kind of important and interesting, the fact that the injunction hearing was pushed till this Friday, I have to imagine played a role, right? Because now if you wait until the injunction hearing, then it's more chaos before the game. Who's coaching? Who's not? Who's going to be on the sidelines? Our coach is in court right now trying to get an injunction to allow him to coach. And I think either way the judge ruled on Friday, if that proceeding had gone through, it would have been, I don't want to say bad, but it would have just been more chaos, right? Because if she says no, then all of a sudden you're deflated because Coach Harbaugh's not there. But I was thinking about this. What if she says yes? What if there is a temporary injunction and Jim Harbaugh is allowed to coach? Then all you're doing is thank you everybody for your support of the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube channel. And we have a major announcement. The Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube channel has partnered with DraftKings Sportsbook and the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And here is the best part. Listeners of this channel, special offer courtesy of the DraftKings Sportsbook for first-time customers. Here's the offer. Here's what you need to know. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Bet just $5 on any game, and you get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you use the promo code TORRES. It really is that simple. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Bet $5 on any game, and as long as you are a first-time customer, you get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you use the code TORRES. Could be pro, could be college, could be basketball, hockey, football, whatever you want. DraftKings Sportsbook, promo code Torres, first-time customers, bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Potentially pushing back that punishment more. 3-game suspension from the Big Ten. You've served 1 game against Penn State. And when I look at it, you do wonder, what if down the road, in a month from now, there's a different ruling, a different judge, a different whatever. And now all of a sudden, you got to miss a playoff game. You got to miss a Big Ten championship game. So even if you get the injunction, it could potentially just push down that punishment and again, create more uncertainty. And so what feels obvious to me is that there was a lot of emotion on Friday into Saturday. I include myself. I thought what the Big Ten did to Michigan was absolute nonsense. To put those players on a flight not knowing, I thought was completely unfair. But once the emotion cooled off, it was clear to me that Michigan said, you know what? We don't need to put our players through this anymore. It sucks. We don't like it. But Harbaugh can game plan. He can prep, and we will take our chances on Saturdays without him. Couple big picture thoughts before we get to some of the rest of the show. One, first of all, for the people that are saying, I saw this a lot on, so, this is nonsense. Are you saying that this is the only punishment that Michigan is getting for this whole situation? I saw smart people saying that, like the punishment wasn't enough. To which I would say, first of all, we don't know what the full punishment is. And 2, you're an idiot, okay? Because first of all, remember, this is an unprecedented punishment from the conference. And why I think that this is not only totally fair, but I actually think it's more than that, is because there is a 3-game suspension from the Big Ten, but one of 2 things is going to happen. Either we're going to find out that Jim Harbaugh and nobody knew anything besides Connor Stallions and that the Big Ten probably overreached, or the NCAA is going to do its investigation. They're going to find out more, and Michigan is going to get punished again. So it's essentially double jeopardy. They're either going to get screwed on one end or screwed on the other. So the idea that this punishment wasn't strict enough, I just don't buy it. Again, listen to the last line in the press release for Michigan. The university continues to fully cooperate with the NCAA's investigation. You know what that means? It means that the NCAA ain't done, and in a year or 18 months or 2 years or 5 years, they could still punish Michigan for this if they find more. So to me, you're either getting hit with 2 separate punishments, or you're getting punished for something that you largely had no one on the staff outside of Connor Stallions had anything to do with. So don't tell me it was an unfair punishment. It was an unfair punishment to Michigan, and sort of credit to them for taking it on the chin and just accepting this is what we have to do. Lastly, 2 kind of big picture thoughts. One, I'll say this. Even if you think that this punishment is unfair and that Michigan deserve more, I do think if Michigan wins out, if Michigan goes 12-0 in the regular season, including 3-0 in their last 3, at Penn State, at Maryland, Ohio State at home, I don't think you can argue that this season, in my opinion, and some would disagree, I don't think you can argue that this season is tainted. Because at that point, just think about what Michigan would have gone through to get to 12-0 to play for a Big Ten championship with Harbaugh back on the sidelines. You understand they're going to play 12 games. 6 of them are going to be without Jim Harbaugh. The first 3 of the year, which was what? I remember this because we talked about it so much. It was East Carolina, UNLV, and Bowling Green. And then the back half of this, the back quarter of the season would be at Penn State, at Maryland, Ohio State at home. You could argue those are the 3 toughest games on the schedule. So if they go 6-0, including 3-0 on the 3 toughest games of the schedule without Jim Harbaugh, how can you argue that this is tainted? How can you argue that anything other than the best team won this championship? Because remember, Connor Stalions got suspended with 5 games left on the schedule. Before the Michigan State game, then the bye, then Purdue, and then these last 3 at Penn State, at Penn State, at Maryland, Ohio State. So you mean to tell me that somehow something is tainted? Because no, you would have gone 6-0 without Jim Harbaugh, 5-0 after Connor Stalions was put on suspension and eventually fired, and he would have beaten probably the 3 toughest games on your schedule at Penn State, at Maryland, Ohio State at home. So that's one. If Michigan wins out, it is, I don't believe in any way, shape, or form, a tainted Big Ten championship. The other thing, and we mentioned this last on Monday's show with James Franklin, like the worst thing that happened to James Franklin was that Jim Harbaugh got suspended like 10 minutes before that game. Because when he lost, it's like, oh my God, you lost at home to Michigan without Jim Harbaugh. They didn't know an hour or 2 hours before kickoff if he was going to coach. I bring it up because I do think there is now all of a sudden a lot on the line for Ryan Day. And what I mean by that is this. I do feel like Ryan Day has re-ingratiated himself, if you will, with a lot of that Ohio State fan base. I think a lot of it started the win at Notre Dame. Remember, Ohio State versus everybody, Ohio State versus the world. And then I do think as this is unfolded, I do get the sense, and Ohio State fans, if you disagree, you can comment in the YouTube section. You can send me emails. Aaron Torres podcast questions at gmail.com if you want to yell at me. I do think that Ohio State's fans have largely taken the approach of there's a little bit of an asterisk over those last 2 wins again by Michigan against Ohio State. Well, if Michigan beats Ohio State this year without Connor Stalions, without Jim Harbaugh, I think a lot of that goodwill from Ryan Day is gone. And I think Ohio State fans are on Thanksgiving weekend madder than they've ever been because of the way this unfolded and the fact that Michigan still beat you without their head coach and without the guy that has been publicly made to be their secret weapon and in a lot of circles, their only reason for success. So Ryan Day, not telling you how to live your life. You're making $8 million a year, so you're doing better than me. But if you want some peace of mind, you better go ahead and beat Michigan. Because if you do not, and if this plays out, no Harbaugh, no Connor Stalions, but mostly no Harbaugh, let's just be honest. You lose to Michigan with an interim head coach this year, there's going to be a lot of mad people in and around Columbus. I think the pressure kind of shifts to Ohio State, who now, you talk about a mega game 2 weeks from now. Of course, Michigan's got to get through Maryland this week on the road. Ohio State's got to take care of Minnesota at home. Ryan Day, you better beat Michigan this year. That's all I got to say.